sometimes death is always the best cause. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great day. We are going to talk about the Twilight Zone. The four of us are dying, which is a very interesting thing. I did a video back in October talking about the Twilight Zone, and I decided let's do another one. This one's not like the most highest rated one of like episodes, so I decided just to talk about this one instead because it just sounded like fun, and I just casually watch it. It's usually on the background, or I'm just sitting there watching the Twilight Zone, so I decided let's dive into the four of us are dying. So this is a very interesting thing. It really gives you like that old like noir kind of film. Maybe it's just because the era of it doing that, but I don't think it was the whole film noir that was going on. But this one really does a good job with that setting. And of course, every single time we listen to it, Rod Sterling tells us what is kind of going on, like the little bit of the beginning, and you meet this character named Arch Hammer, who, let's just say, is not a good guy. And he states that pretty early, that Arch Hammer is not a good guy. And what he can do is he can actually shift if he sees a picture, and he can change into that person. When you meet him at the beginning, he gets a hotel room, he puts like a stack of papers on the table on his bed, and there's just deceased. All these people are all deceased. So the first one he turns into is a man who actually was a singer that got killed. And what he does is he goes to this restaurant where the singer's widower is there and turns into him. And he like manipulates her to meet him in Chicago on a train to go to Chicago. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this guy is a terrible person, because he's just like faking his whole life. And even the woman was like, I thought you died. And he's like, I never died. And now she thinks either he's a ghost or he's real. And then they kiss and she realizes that he's actually real. And that's just like a wild concept to me, is like this man manipulated this woman into going and getting a plane ticket and a train ticket to go to Chicago with them and just move on. And he said he's like I just want to change my life, I want to be gone. And he told her like he faked his death. So it's like one of those scenarios that just blew my mind, thinking, wow, this guy's a terrible person. So with that being said, he then turns into a mobster face and goes and get money to help pay for these train tickets to start a new life in Chicago. And my whole thought is, I'm like, how long can he stick with being this other man for this woman? Is it eternity? Is it forever? And it almost seems like it is, because he can just turn back to who he once was as Arch Hammer immediately in a switch off. Like, as long as he can keep his mind composed and not overreact and not overthink things and not be stressed out, he can immediately turn back to who he once was. But if he gets like too stressed out and can't concentrate, he can't turn back. But that does play a role into this. But when he is this mobster, he goes into this house, and the guy who actually got him killed gets confronted by him. And he takes all the money, and the guy's like, how did you live? And he's like, how did you escape? And he's like, how did I escape? I got shot in the stomach so many times, and you just left me in the river. He's like, how do you think I escaped? And it's a very cool concept to think about, because it's like, this guy's literally just manipulating himself to become someone else, to get benefits of this deceased, to get money, to find the love of his life, and all that. So I thought that was a really cool concept watching this part of the film, of the show, because, well, I don't really see that much. That's kind of why I like the Twilight Zone in general, because this is, to me, it makes me think of karma is just a sweet thing. Karma always is going to hit the bad people. That's how I always been a belief of it. Karma is going to definitely hit Arch Hammer eventually, and we're going to see it in this episode. And what happens is, as he's running away, because of course he gets the money and then he runs into two of the bodyguards for this one man, he pushes them out and just books it. And the two bodyguards are chasing him. And this is how we figure out that when he gets stressed and he can't concentrate, he actually can't turn into a different face or to his regular self. And what happens is, luckily, he gets stuck in a spot and he sees a face of a wrestler. And he turns into the wrestler, and that's when the two bodyguards are like, oh, I thought you were somebody else. We were chasing somebody else, but he's gone. And then the wrestler walks around the corner, and he actually sees a man who clearly Arch Hammer, who does not know, is like, it's you. And the guy's like, yeah, it's me. And the guy's like, you don't know who I am. And he's like, no, not really. And he's like, I'm your dad. You ran out on your mother and I and your fiance. What makes me laugh about it is, like, every guy who he turns into, besides the singer, are just bad people. And he is constantly building up karma of becoming a bad person because of it. And I kind of like the element of this story, this show, because of those actions. His actions are just speaking volumes, and he is just actually just becoming a worse person. And the dad like confronts him and tries to tell him how terrible a person he is. He guilts him, which I respect. I mean, he ran out on his fiance and his parents? Yeah. And the guy does book it, and he goes away, he goes back to the hotel, and he changes back into Arch Hammer. He has the money, and he's going to leave so he can meet that girl on the train to go to Chicago. And then there's a guy that shows up, a detective, and the detective and him talk, and what happens is, this is a really cheesy scene, but Arch Hammer and detective goes through those rolling doors, and he just rolls and rolls and rolls, and when he comes out of the door, he shifts to the face of the wrestler, and the detective's like, wait, who are you? And the guy's like, oh, he went in there. He was back into the hotel. So he lost the detective doing that, which is pretty cool. I mean, I think it's a really cool concept, like a cool power, but I'm also like, if it's used in the wrong hands, it's terrible, actually. So if you think about it like that, yeah, it's not the greatest. And this is where the wrestler runs into, well, his father again. And the father pulls out a gun and is gonna shoot him, and the wrestler's like, this is not me. And he kept yelling, he's like, I need to concentrate, I need to concentrate, I need to concentrate. What happens is, well, the father shoots him, which I didn't expect that. I thought the guy was going to shift last minute before he was going to get shot, but he gets shot, and what happens is he falls to the ground, and all of a sudden his features start changing back to who he once was. And that's why it's called The Four of Us Are All Dying, because 4 people die at once because of this. And I really like that concept of karma. That's kind of how I just think of it, is like, even if you try to cheat death, you still die. If you try to cheat anything, you still get punished. Like, karma's still a thing. Arch Hammer is not a good man at all through this, and it really shows that he tried to manipulate a woman. He robbed gangsters who already murdered this guy already, and then he makes matters worse and tries not to rebuild a family relationship. All in a span of 20 minutes. This show really just ingrains, like, story in each one of these episodes. I've always been a fan of the Twilight Zone. I plan on doing more of them, but if I had to give a rating to this one, I think I'll give it like an 8 out of 10, because it's just really, really fun to watch and just see the way you can manipulate everyone's thoughts, essentially, of who they thought this person was, to being like, oh, this is actually not the person. I thought it was a really fun concept, and it's just a really good story. I would recommend everyone checking out. It's on Tubi. It's free on Tubi, so check it out. But actually, I just recommend everyone check out Twilight Zone. I think Twilight Zone is probably one of the greatest shows of all time. It's just so good. It's goated. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. Have you guys seen this episode of the Twilight Zone, or have you seen the Twilight Zone at all? If you haven't, definitely go watch it. If you have watched this one, let me know down below. Also, recommend a couple episodes. I would love to check those out as well. And last but not least, make sure you guys stay safe and don't change faces.